Welcome to your 12-minute HR lesson. Today, I'm going to give you some really blunt advice about sending emails. Don't just keep sending emails. Talk to people and then maybe send an email. Yes, you can send just emails, but you got to be pretty sure it doesn't really matter. Curious? Challenged? Annoyed in advance? Well, let's see. Let's go. These podcasts are little nuggets of knowledge, little short, sharp lessons that can help you do things a little bit better. There's only so much I can give you in 12 minutes, so therefore I want to give you one thing that you can hopefully do different, do better next time. Sometimes are very vague, sometimes are very abstract, sometimes are very deep, sometimes are really simple, and that's what I'm aiming for today. And the simple message is, emails are bad. Or more specific, call more, email less. When, how, why? We'll get into that. But first, let's take the long scenic route on this one. I keep saying that I can't talk about superheroes anymore. Given a choice, I'd talk about history more. But I'm also well aware that my audience probably aren't the same history tragics that I am. But I'll tell you why I find history so interesting. History is like a fictional story set in a different land, but starring the same people. There's a saying that says, the past is like a different country. They do things differently there. But they do and they don't. This is the interesting reality, is that throughout time, throughout cultures, we have some vastly different situations and different circumstances and different forces and different cultural pressures and expectations and values. But it's full of people, and people in many ways have some very common structures. We have common DNA, but we also have the same patterns of behavior turning up throughout history. An interesting question that historians tackle every so often is, now that we know what we know, can we explain the past differently from how they did before? Now that we understand neurodiversity much better than we did before, what does that explain about humans through history? Because we didn't invent neurodiversity, we discovered neurodiversity. It was always there. We just didn't really know about it the way that we know about it now. So what I'm saying is that we see the same tropes, we see the same patterns, we see the same issues time and time again. So let me talk to you about misunderstandings of written language, because that's essentially what we're talking about. And there's 1,001 examples, but probably the simplest is the charge of the Light Brigade. And it's a very simple story. It goes like this: Crimean War, middle of a battle, general looks at a situation, sends off an order to his cavalry, go attack those guns. Words to that effect. So far as he could see, it's pretty obvious what the guns were, what he meant by those guns. When the order got to the cavalry, they couldn't see the guns he was talking about because there was a hill in the way. What they could see is a very well-defended position at the other end of the valley, so off they went, charging for the furthest target, not the nearest target, and got absolutely destroyed in the process. And there's many examples of written communication being unclear and getting us into trouble, but that's a good one. That is, what was in the sender's brain was very different from what landed in the receiver's brain, because there's a very, very big gap in information that got lost in that translation. So let's skim across a very deep and complex idea of what is communication. You've seen the sender, the receiver, the feedback, the noise picture 1,001 times, but that is the best way of thinking about it. Communication is very simple. It is not the process of saying, it is not the process of writing. Communication is the transfer of an idea from one brain to another brain. Communication doesn't happen until I am thinking what you want me to think. Now, I don't need to have to agree with it, but you're giving me the idea. 3 bananas. You say 3 bananas, you have a picture of 3 bananas in your head. Once I have a picture of 3 bananas in my head, or effectively I understand the concept of 3 bananas, then we have communication. Communication does not happen until what you have in your mind is in the other person's mind. You can get into meme theory if you want to. It's a very interesting topic. But to keep it simple, that's what we want to do when we are communicating. So now that we've got the idea of what is communication, now we have to ask ourselves the question, how do we know when we've communicated? When we know that what we have in our brain is in other people's brain. Until such time as we know, it's a little bit of a wish and a prayer. If we put the information out there and we have no verification that that has landed, that that has gone through, we've only done half the job. Which leads me essentially to my specific thesis of this talk, of what I want you to learn in this 12 minutes, and that is this. Emails are not communication. Emails are evidence of communication. What do I mean by that? You send an email, the massive misunderstanding that you can make is to think that you have communicated. Because you have put it in writing and you have hit that send button, it will be picked up, it will be read, and it will be internalized, and what was in your head when you wrote it will now be in that other person's head. You don't, do you? You really don't know. To think that that happened, that other side of the equation, that you've put it down and that they're going to pick it up, you don't know. And to assume that that is happening is such a massive assumption. All we are doing when we email is that we are proving that we have said it, and we are utterly unproven that they have understood it. What does this mean? What does this mean in practice? If you want communication, if you want understanding, it doesn't finish once you've said it. It finishes when they have understood it and you have certainty that they've understood it. Therefore, what do you need to do? You need to talk to them. You need to speak to them. You need to see it in their eyes and discuss it and check it and verify it. But an email is only half the job. And it's like building half a bridge. What good is half a bridge? If it doesn't get you to the other side, it's just your capacity to say, look, I've done my side of this communication equation. If things fall over, it's your fault. It's arse covering. If you genuinely want to communicate, you need to talk to them. You need to see it. You need to verify. You need to know they have picked it up and done their side of the bargain. Why do we still email? Because sometimes we do need to prove that we've communicated. I do this all the time. I do this every day. I possibly do this every hour. I'll talk to someone and then I will flick them an email full of bullet points because I love writing in bullet points. And more often than not, the evidence is not for them, it's for myself, so that I know that I've talked to them about it, because I want to be able to go back and say, what did we talk about? Where did we go from there? What was happening next? Because if I don't, sometimes things get messy, and I want that evidence to demonstrate to me, to future me, this is what has happened. Sometimes an email is enough. Sometimes you just need it on record. Sometimes you don't really need to know that they have internalized it. And here is the real question. What matters if they don't read it properly? There's lots of emails that I send that I know that if they don't really read it properly, it's not a big deal. Take a CC as a good example. If you're CCing someone and you know they're not going to really read it, but that's not really going to hold things up or slow things down or scupper the whole process, then absolutely the email is the right thing. If you can predict that things will go badly, or that things will fall over, or things will really tie themselves up in the mess or not go anywhere, if that person doesn't read that properly, then just an email is not enough. Pick up the phone, give them a call. That was really grumpy. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I was so harumphy through all of that. I don't know where that energy came from. Maybe it's too many emails in my inbox. Maybe too many people telling me stuff that I'm not entirely sure what they mean, which means then I have to call them to find out so I can be sure that I'm understanding. Maybe it's that, but probably it's not. Maybe it's me in advance thinking that you're going to be hyper defensive about this, therefore what I need to do is push you on it. Who knows? My apologies. Next one I'll be upbeat. I hope you found it practical. I hope it just gave you something to think about slightly different next time. There's diminishing returns when it comes to the skills that we have as professionals. We learn the most in our first year in the job, but that doesn't mean we stop learning. And often there aren't the big wins anymore, but there's still 1,001 small gains. That's what we can help you with. We're not just here to take you from the novice to the intermediate with the big chunky wins that you get early on. We're also here to help you with the little increments that can make you slightly better at your job, make you slightly less stressed when you go home. If you're interested, check out our website, pragmatichrm.nz. If not, please pass this on so others can have a look at what we can offer them. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.